So, Roman, so nice to see you.
Great to see you too.
How have you been?
I've been well. I've been well, considering. Personally, very happy because I get to spend time with my daughter and my wife. But starting to feel happier with music as well.
Hmm.
Um, it's been kind of up and down with that, but in the last few weeks, starting to find the rhythm.
Facebook just reminded me that we played together 2 years ago
That's right.
at the Hay
That was
Festival.
a fun concert.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely. And we actually met in Verbier, which will be 7 years ago. That's crazy.
oh wow, has it been that? That's right, 13. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So I'm kind of doing a small tour around the world with my guests. You are in Canada right now.
Mhm.
How is the situation in the US, in North America, in Canada?
Well, it's very different from US here. It's much more controlled.
Hmm.
There's much less tragedy. Um,
Yeah.
Things are, seem to be under control, at least in the province where we are in
Yeah.
Alberta. They're opening up soon. People, of course, go around with masks, but it seems under control.
Okay. So you have a kind of sense of safety. That's
Well, yeah, there's no chaos
yeah.
here. It's yeah.
I think it's so important that this trust develops again, also towards science and facts.
Right.
In so many countries, politicians handled so far science like, oh, you know,
Right.
we don't care, we don't give money, we don't give support, and suddenly the most important people are doctors and
Hmm.
people who actually can study now how this virus works, or mathematicians and so on. So it's an interesting shift
Isn't
to
it funny how we, are told that some countries are the strongest army and military in the
yeah.
world, and that doesn't matter now, huh? And scientists have been warning us about this for years now.
What was your last performance, if you
So the
can still
last
remember?
performance was with my wife Diana in DC. We played two recitals together right before the tipping point where
Right.
everything collapsed. The panic started. It was, maybe 10 people in the audience because people's already started
Yeah.
to feel scared. And the next day, I was supposed to go play in New York and afterwards other places. And the next day, I realized that there's no way I can go to New York. So we changed our ticket back home.
Right. Well,
And
it's
this
great that
was
you could
March.
go back home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we got lucky because a few days after the borders closed.
I know that you are very up to date with technology. You have been playing from iPad, come on, for a very long time. You also paint on iPad. So, what are your thoughts on technology becoming now really so important, about virtual concerts? Have you done any live stream or virtual concerts so far?
I have done some, yeah. It's probably a necessary evil, but I had a difficult time playing to avoid like it felt like a black hole to me to
Yeah.
play for an empty space without knowing who is listening. was difficult. I never really questioned the audience role in what we're doing until this time, and wow, it's really made me realize how essential playing for someone is, and it's, you know, it's equal, they play an equal part. Since a few weeks, Dan and I started to play in our front yard,
Yes.
in our house, and having neighbors come by and on the street and come bring their chairs, and having, you know, socially distant gatherings. That has really made a huge difference, and I think we both feel like we can breathe again. And the response has been wonderful, you know, the connection, the human connection. Quite moving to see that actually people realize that they need that as well. One person even said that it made their 9 weeks bearable. So it's been quite meaningful to do this. How are you coping with this time?
I think I miss the most really exchanging with colleagues.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of wanted to start something like this, playing chamber music and just being able to be in a small room with more musicians without masks and without worrying in how many minutes, how many times we have to open the windows and have regulations and so on. What I found most interesting actually is to observe what was my first like instincting drive to do, because somehow maybe those questions or feelings are suppressed when you are super busy.
Yeah.
But now that you have the time for literally everything, it can be also musical instinct, like what's the first repertoire I want to practice, or you know, whatever in your life.
Yeah, it's also interesting not to run around from place to place and to stop. No, it's
Yeah.
an interesting experiment what it does to us.
Yesterday I had a photo shooting uh, for my upcoming CD, which has been postponed. The release has been postponed.
What's on
So
the recording?
Hungarian solo repertoire from Kodai to Kurtag. And there will be actually also world premieres. Piece by Kurtag is will be a world premiere recording.
Oh, wow.
So it's very exciting repertoire for me, and you know, it's really my roots, my musical roots.
Did you get to play it for him?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
amazing.
Many sleepless nights.
So,
But yeah, so I have been super excited, and then the release got postponed, and it was a bit frustrating because everything else is done. It's only the photos which were missing. So we did them yesterday, and it was such a weird feeling to carry my cello case again. I did miss it because, yeah, there was no going around with the suitcase and the cello case.
right. Right.
How is your complete Haydn project going? Because you have been doing this wonderful project with all the Haydn sonatas.
Volume 2 is supposed to was supposed to be released in March, but
Right.
it takes longer now that everything is done, but the mastering, and so the engineer needs an access to a studio, which, you know, he's working from home now. So hopefully by I don't know, we're hoping by August now, but who knows. So it's going to be volume 2. And this month in May, I was supposed to do quite a few Haydn concerts
Yeah.
in New York and in London. I'm finding a sense of relief and purpose with Bach as well, as I started to learn the Goldberg variations, and
Wonderful.
it's been a wonderful experience, and that brings me a lot of pleasure and joy to do this every day.
So, are you still practicing towards certain projects then, or at the beginning of confinement, did you kind of keep on practicing the repertoire you should have been playing?
I was in the beginning, and then I did a live stream, so I had to practice for this. I was also devoted some time to composition in the beginning, and now I'm just practicing Bach.
Just.
um,
Yeah.
just yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, just Bach. I mean, this this monumental piece takes a lot. It's not that I have actually all day long, because I have a 7-month-old baby, and we don't have help, so this takes actually most of our day, and so it's not. I don't have the whole day to practice, not at all.
So, having a child makes you have to plan your practice much more strictly, no?
Well,
And be more
it's out of my
flexible.
control. I kind of have
Yeah.
to find time when she's napping, or you know.
Do you think when if you were still touring and traveling and playing concerts, would it be easier or it's more challenging that you have to be home and together 24/7?
It's a good question. I think if I was traveling, we would have a babysitter, but I also would not have spent the time with her, which is, you know, a a gift. It's a paternity leave that I would not have otherwise. So I'm very grateful for that.
Back to Haydn, I wanted to ask you more about style and different instruments. It's such a debate, and you know musicians can basically kill each other, uh, having
Over
very
one's
strong opinions.
duck or a carrot.
Exactly. And what was before the egg or the chicken? Um, I had a discussion about this also with a singer because I found it very interesting that to my ears, some singers like Schwarzkopf, for instance, they are not um, outdated. They are not out
Mhm.
of style. And I was wondering also with piano playing or instrumental playing that really our techniques and the taste has changed so much, or how did you find your way to do such a project like playing and recording all the Haydn sonatas?
I did a lot of research about the style in general. Of course, the instruments, you can't just ignore it. You have to examine the instruments and what what they what sound world they bring, um, and you know which informs how this music breathes. But then at the end of the day, you, you do what your instinct um, tells you, and you kind of synthesize all the information,
Mm.
and it becomes unconscious, um, or subconscious, conscious but subconscious. So you know you absorb all the information, and then you kind of you react when you perform. And the more pieces you are familiar with, the more information you have. So I did a lot of listening and reading the string quartets and the symphonies and the the vocal music, and other composers of the time, and C.P. Bach and other people who influenced him. And you do your best. I don't know. It's everyone thinks they have the answer, but no one does. It's and of course you play differently every time, and what you record is what you record on that day, and next day you play differently. So it's you have
So
more
you're not
information.
someone who goes to the studio and has a exact plan of each note how it should sound. You still have a certain kind of improvisation part.
I try to have a plan as much as I can, but then usually I don't stick with the plan when it comes to the recording, because it's life. So you have to be in the moment, and a real challenge with the recording, that to make it magical, to make it spontaneous, to make it alive. Otherwise, it sounds. We all know how recordings can sound stale
Yeah.
and and perfect,
Perfect, but
but
too sterile.
no
Yeah.
lifeless. Yeah. So that's a big challenge.
And how is it? Because the last, maybe not the last time we met, but it was also with our common friend Adam. And I know that you have been doing recordings assisting
Yeah.
for each
Yeah.
other.
We've been producing each other's recordings with Adam and our third friend, Michael Brown, Adam Golka and Michael Brown, both wonderful pianists. And so we did two recording projects as a three-headed pianist. We were recording each an album and producing for each other. So, and it's been really interesting experience. Learning about recording and about psychology, what to say, what not to say during the
And when
recording,
to say it.
when to say.
Kind of have a team for recordings whom I trust, and they have a lot of experience already because they started their recording careers when it was just tapes.
Uh-huh.
But they are super up to date and open and curious.
In Hungary.
Yes, and it certainly has a psychological aspect because they already know me enough when to push me further, that I still have in myself a better version
Yeah.
than the current one, and when to say, okay, Ildiko, take a break. Your head is red, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's so, because we're so fragile when we record. No, it's the most it's so vulnerable, such a vulnerable position to be, because you're pouring your heart out, but you're alone also. It's all in your head, and you don't really know. Yeah, I mean, you get a sense, but you don't really know how it sounds and how it will come out, and to keep all the details of the puzzle together needs to be a person that you really trust. um, as a producer, you have to trust the person.
For me, it's very important that the music engineer, the producer, is a great musician,
Hmm.
because just telling me, oh, that E flat was too high is
Hmm.
that I can hear too. But
Right.
someone who helps me also to maintain a musical line or a musical idea is very important. But I'm not sure I could work with two other cellists because they are so instrument
Yeah.
specific. So are Michael and Adam someone were you studying together, or how did
Yes,
this?
we have a long history of friendship and camaraderie, and we know each other for a long time, and we've been playing for each other for a long time, more than 10 years.
Wow.
I think 12 years, and we've been playing for each other regularly, and we're brutally honest with each other, and so in that sense, it's wonderful. I can see how it can seem to be unusual for three pianists,
The
but
triumvirate.
it works for us.
Well, it's really great and special, I think. So I hope you can produce for each other many more beautiful CDs.
I hope so too.
These times are, yeah, they are a limitation. We also can't go to concerts. I really miss going to someone else's concerts
Mhm.
and hear live music. How you are coping with the absence of inputs?
Well, there's no lack of information or, archival concerts.
Hmm.
If you want to study something or have a reference, that that is easier than ever today. Everything is online. In terms of motivation, I try to kind of, create my own deadlines and goals and projects at this time. Otherwise, the days just start to blur, no?
I also found out that without deadlines,
Yeah,
I
me
or
too.
even just setting shorter goals or smaller goals,
That's right.
but I need them to be productive and structured. Also, this kind of habit of always having to be productive
Hmm.
is a certain pressure because we identify ourselves so much with our
Yeah,
profession.
that's
So I used to, if one day I didn't practice, I thought I'm unworthy for everything. And it's
right.
kind of extreme. But certainly I also need deadlines. That's when I can really work well. So it's very weird without them.
I'm enjoying more walks, daily walks. That's kind of keeps some sanity.
And
Um,
about your composing, I find it amazing that nowadays more and more performers compose too.
it's funny that you say that because up until 20th century, everyone composed.
I know, but then it kind of got lost completely, and now I feel like I hear more and more, well, most of the time from pianists, but that they compose as well, and it's really nice to hear. You compose mainly for yourself, or you put deadlines for your compositions as well, or how does it differ
Yeah.
from your practice?
Well, I have a few threads. So I have like a sketchbook that are it's ideas and it's without deadline, and it's just ideas that come. And then if I see if they start to talk to each other, I a piece comes, and so um, and then I try to have a deadline.
Do you compose also for other instruments or mainly
Mhm.
for piano?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
So let me know if you have anything for cello.
It's definitely brewing. I'll let you know. Yeah.
I find it very interesting with pianists when they kind of compose for themselves, such as Chopin, for instance. How is it that they wrote for their very specific instruments often too, the types of instruments they were playing, and the kind of technique they were playing. So,
Mhm.
have you ever heard any piece you composed for piano played by another pianist. And how was that for you?
I have actually, and it's very interesting. It's was completely different from what I imagined and how I played it. And I thought that was much more interesting. That something that I didn't even think about. I thought it was an interesting thing, not a bad thing. It opens possibilities, because music doesn't exist on the page. It only exists in sound. So everyone brings their own soul to it, and that's how the music comes to life. So
What's more easier or more convenient? I don't know. Rather cancel something completely or try to bring the whole thing to next year.
well,
Also,
that's
I
the
mean,
debate, right? I mean, it's really hard to know what to do. I mean, you want to have it safe, but also there's a hunger and need for the arts in the communities, and festivals around the world find new and innovative ways to connect with their audiences. um, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's a positive outcome. People come with ingenious solutions to crisis, to problems. um, that's how civilization goes forward.
right. So you consider yourself an optimist in this sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's probably going to be different from what we used to, for for sure. But of course we're going to be playing. I mean, of course we will. It's going to be in a different format uh, for a while.
Well, I hope we can find solutions, and I hope that we can play together soon too.
I hope so too.
And I don't want to keep you from your wonderful daughter. So
No, I enjoyed talking to you.
take care.